throughout all of the people here. I was fortunate enough to grow up here in St. George. I always thought of it like Opie's kind of community where he grew up. I always felt like I grew up in Mayberry. I've always felt like St. George and Washington County and the surrounding towns have always been America's county. And I've been grateful and blessed to be able to enjoy that spirit throughout my life. And I'm like you. I just want that spirit to carry on. And we want to do everything that we can. None of us can do anything more than we have resources or talents or skills or ability. We all just do our very best in the station and situation and circumstances that we're in. That's where United We Pledge is at currently. We're not trying to do anything other than bring people together, lift where we stand, and make our community the very best that we can. But wholeheartedly, we stand behind an idea to publicly declare that this ought to be America's county, and that we ought to treat it as America's county, and we ought to do everything we can to promulgate that idea specifically amongst the rising generation. I would say that we'll give you our commitment as an organization that will be as supportive and promote as hard as we can and lift our voice as loud as we can, not just from June 26th to July 4th this year, but we'll do it every year thereafter. We'll do it during Constitution Week and during the month that the state of Utah has just declared as Founders and Constitution Month. We'll do it leading into the Bill of Rights celebration and every other celebration that there is. We'll do it in schools, through educational programs, to family. We're on your side, and I'm genuinely honored to be led by men who are really courageous enough to make a stand like this. I don't think this kind of thing is being done in many counties around this great nation of ours, and I'm grateful for all that's being done from a host of people who are linking arms trying to make it happen. Can I be indulged to read one other quote from John
Sure.
Adams? Is that okay? I want to be cognizant of time. There are many people who make oaths that they'll defend the Constitution from enemies foreign and domestic. I've thought about that some. We certainly understand the need to protect from foreign entities, but the whole domestic thing has caused me some pause. Then there's this quote from John Adams: "We have no government armed with power capable of contending with human passions unbridled by morality and religion. Greed, ambition, revenge, or gallantry would break the strongest cords of our Constitution as a whale goes through a net. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Our duty and our responsibility is to raise a generation that preserves and protects all the things you're talking about." What does the Constitution need right now? The Constitution needs Dennis Leavitt to repent. It needs Dennis Leavitt to become a better man than he was yesterday. It needs Dennis Leavitt to be everything he can, be morally and just. The problem with our Constitution is not the Constitution. Never has been. The problem with our Constitution is people who should lead it and protect it internally, and the only person I can protect it internally from is me, and that's all we can each individually do. So United We Pledge will pledge everything to promote in every way goodness in this county, and we will, with dignity and honor and grace, wave this county's banner the best we can, welcoming everyone who wants to come and join with us in this. So thank you again for your efforts. We're just happy and proud to be a part of them and live in this great little area of the world.
Perfectly said. Thank you.
Chair, before you read it, I look at this as our Declaration of Independence, this day. We had our original Declaration of Independence to show what it meant to be under the thumb of another power. But Dennis, you're right. Our threat is within. And as long as we are staying together, no threat from without will defeat us. This as our Declaration of Independence from what? From all those who would take away from America, from all those who would destroy the law of the land, the Constitution, and other laws that have been formed. Independence from those who would shackle us. I don't want to be under the burden of every day waking up and wondering if I won't be free that day. And so that's part of our declaration. no other county is doing it that we know of. It's probably making the map that they didn't think of it, because there's good county people all over. But we're plowing the new field because we feel strongly about it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So with that, I will read the proclamation now. It says, a proclamation declaring Washington County as America's county on this day, June 6th, 2023. Whereas the United States is a promised and blessed land, preserved as a haven for freedom and peace, where liberty can blossom and thrive for those willing to support that cause. Whereas the foundation of freedom was constructed in small parts throughout the world over many centuries, true freedom is a uniquely American experiment. Whereas only in this great nation has the ideal of liberty, longed for by all mankind since the dawn of time, been established in an enduring and perpetual form. Whereas never before has a nation been as successful, peaceful, and prosperous as America since 1776. Whereas never before has a nation done more for the cause of global peace, prosperity, and liberty. Whereas those successes globally are directly attributable to the liberty of citizens of America. Whereas America quickly became the beacon to the world of how nations should be governed and how the natural state of people is to be free. Whereas the founders of this great nation were men and women willing to sacrifice all that they had, including their own lives if required, to establish that cause of peace. Whereas the early pioneers of the great state of Utah came to reclaim their right to practice their religion and to live in peace. Whereas they longed to maintain the freedoms granted by a young and fragile nation. Whereas determined men and women were sent to Washington County in the furtherance of freedom and practical application and cooperative success of the state and region. Whereas only those brave enough and strong enough stayed and survived in Utah's Dixie. Whereas that history of courageous hard work and striving for independence in an unforgiving environment established a legacy of endurance and determination for the success of liberty in this land. Whereas freedom, patriotism, and liberty have long been defended through courage and bravery in Utah's Dixie since inception. Whereas the courage of our founding fathers was carried in the hearts of the early pioneers and still thrives in the hearts of new American patriots in Washington County today. Whereas those ideals are fragile and under constant threat of destruction. Whereas the nation and world need shining examples of liberty and of a responsible and limited government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Whereas with that passion, we declare that Washington County, Utah is America's county, the example of freedom in the land of liberty, that all who live in Utah's Dixie will collectively strive and fight for constitutional freedoms, that this land will be a beacon of the world of how a community thrives in liberty. Whereas Washington County, Utah proclaims the blessings of a democratic republican form of government and individual freedoms protected by our U.S. Constitution. Whereas in these times of social confusion and division, let us work to build a more perfect union by celebrating what brings us together, not what divides us. Let us remember the divine truth that all mankind are created equal and endowed by their Creator with unalienable rights. Let us love our neighbors and care for one another so that a civil society and limited government will be the natural order of our county. Whereas we celebrate our national goal to work towards a more perfect union, let us remember the past so that we might understand ourselves. Let us use history as a teacher to learn divine truths. Let us celebrate the good by a recommitment to kindness and civility towards one another, regardless of race or social background. Government and society must always be the framework to protect, not abuse, this self-evident truth. Whereas we remember and celebrate the Paiute Nation, whose family fires first made this place a home since before recorded history, and who were the first in our county to believe in individual freedom, and whose descendants are our friends and neighbors. Whereas we give thanks for the divine wisdom that rested upon the founders of this modern American nation to guide them to establish the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Whereas with gratitude we remember the sacrifice of the pioneers whose hard work and sacrifice laid the foundation for the prosperity and opportunities of today. Whereas we salute all our sons and daughters who in their youth took up arms to defend and protect peace against the never-ending waves of tyranny. Whereas we support those in our community who have chosen a career as a first responder to keep our county a safe place where criminal behavior is not tolerated. Whereas principles of democracy embodied in the Republic of the United States dictate a continued vigilance to maintain liberty, commerce, justice, and basic human rights. Whereas the words "we the people" are just as viable and effective today. Whereas the flag of the United States is a symbol of all that is right and achievable in a free society, and citizens have the right to singularly display it. Whereas personal freedom is reinforced and protected by a strong military and law enforcement. Whereas family is the basic fabric of strong community and national achievement. Whereas the foundation of America is referred to by the founders as based on a belief and an homage to the overseeing eye and hand of deity. Whereas we have respect for those who first inhabited the land. Whereas we maintain a recognition of the intrinsic goodness of Americans and their cause. Whereas all are welcome to this free and inviting land. Whereas Americans in business are hardworking, innovative, and fair. Whereas the words "in God we trust" are taken seriously here. Whereas patriots of America are needed in every county, city, town, and household. Whereas all institutions of education, public and private, must demonstrate a dedication to achieving the principles of Americanism. Now therefore, we, the County Commissioners of Washington County, hereby declare and proclaim all of Washington County as America's county, with a perpetual commitment to stand by the principles of the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Utah, the Bill of Rights, and the principles of American government. We do this to preserve God-given rights, as referenced in the Declaration of Independence, to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.